Welcome to the What's in Store podcast from IDDBA.
Well, hello, friends. Thanks for joining us today. 2025 has already started out with a lot of excitement. I'm Whitney Atkins, Vice President of Marketing and Membership for the International Dairy-Deli-Bakery Association, and it is my pleasure to bring you a bonus edition of our What's in Store podcast as we begin 2025. Joining me today is Scott Brown, Director of Global Strategy for One World Sync. And One World Sync helps us power our digital catalog here at IDBA that really helps our members showcase their products, what's new and what's out there. So welcome, Scott.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's exciting to have you here today because we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about IDBA member value. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about One World Sync in our digital catalog. So we'll just jump right in. So as an introduction, again, I'm excited to have Scott here today. He's a proven leader with data governance, community, and program management. Scott has a wide range of experience in retail in various industries from pharmacy to grocery retail. He has a unique ability to showcase both his creative side and his data governance side to really focus in on being able to highlight products throughout our industry. So, Scott, I probably missed something because you're so talented. I want to be sure I give you an opportunity. Is there something else you'd like to add, tell us about in your past or your experience?
No, I think that covers it. You know, I've been working in this space with master data governance, taxonomy, classification for a little over 20 years. And I've had a very fortunate pleasure of working with large companies, you know, Fortune 500 companies, but also very small companies, and trying to help them solve their needs in the data sharing, data collection space. And it ranges everything from normal supply chain data to make sure products move throughout the supply chain, all the way up to e-commerce data, regulatory data, images, videos, marketing information, all that sort of stuff. So we're able to help pull that all together and try to simplify what's going on. So that's kind of been the crux of what I've been doing for over 20 years now.
And you know, Scott, as we talk, that's one of the reasons that IDBA has partnered with a company from like One World Sync, because just like what you said, our member base is everybody from top 50 retailers and manufacturers to those small independents that actually need that support as well to be able to introduce their products in the marketplace. So one thing I want to touch on before we get started, I did just notice that One World Sync was named a leader in product information management recently. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And in fact, that's something that we're very proud of. We've been doing this for a long time, and to go out into the industry and have our peers, our customers, and others in the marketplace recognize that our tools are providing a service and our tools are able to help folks meet the needs that they have is wonderful. So we're glad to have that acknowledgement and look forward to improving on that as we go along.
You know, a couple of things I did see, and I might embarrass you here a little bit, but it's a fun embarrassment. I did see that you've also been dubbed as the Superman at One World Sync. So that's a pretty special title when your colleagues in leadership W is that. So it sounds like that's a well-deserved name. So I'm fortunate to be talking to the Superman today. So.
Well, thanks. I think, that's one of those titles that can sometimes be a good thing and sometimes be a bad thing, right? Because it's good that people see you that way and that you can provide that kind of service to people. But then also it's a bad thing because sometimes you have to live up to that, right?
Exactly, right. And they do that when you say, oh, I can't lose that kind of title. So I wanted to have a little fun with that today. So let's just dig in a little bit. Scott, if you can tell me a little bit with your wide, vast experience about grocery industry technology and where you've seen it go in the last 3 or 4 years and where you see it going in the next 3 or 4, that would be great.
Sure. So I think one of the biggest things is everything in today's world is pre or post COVID, right? Yep. When we start talking about that. So when we look pre-COVID, we were trucking along, everybody was buying things at physical locations. For the most part, we were starting to see online sales increase, but we were starting to really see online product information increase. And that's kind of where it was starting. in the early 2010s, mid 2010s, of people trying to make sure their product showed up online and was something that a consumer could dig into to find more information. Well, there were places you could buy online and all that. It really wasn't the big thing when you talk about normal groceries. Now, when you talk about electronics or something like that, there were a lot of people that really did start buying online then. But people were using it more as a research tool. And it was in its infancy. There was still a lot of folks that didn't understand what needed to be there or how it needed to be. And so it was kind of the Wild West. Some people were doing it well, some people weren't. Some people just had a simple image and just a product name, and that was really all you could get. But then COVID hit, and all of us had to change our buying behaviors. You couldn't go to the store like you used to. You didn't just go and browse and shop and walk around. You went with a purpose, right? You went, I have to get this, and then I have to get out and get home, right? And when you went to the store, there wasn't a lot of things. So people turned online, and the online folks really dug in and said, we're going to make sure that people have a good buying experience. And so what's happened as of that is that small, marketing effort and that smaller e-commerce presence started growing. And now everybody realizes that that is a main piece of their business. It's not just a side thing. It's now that main piece that they need to provide a very good customer-facing experience. And even the retailers and the distributors and those folks that are actually directly interacting with the sale to the customer are actually turning back to the manufacturers, suppliers of that product and saying, I need you to give it to me. They've been creating it a lot for their own websites, but they're saying, I can only go so far. I've got 20, 30, 40, 50,000 products. I don't have a team that can sit here and create everything for every product.
Yeah, we definitely, as you talk about that, we definitely saw that early on as well. And I often refer to pre and post COVID times as well and the impacts of our industry. You are exactly correct. We saw that need from our members as well. Like it was kind of, I think you termed it the Wild Wild West, and we saw that as well, and really focused on finding partners that could help us help our members. And obviously this partnership is one. But go ahead, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. So now those guys that are looking at that are turning back to the manufacturer suppliers and saying, you know what? You know the product better than I do. Right? You know what you want to market on. You know whether it's got this certification or it doesn't, or if it meets this type of diet or it doesn't, or it has this chemical in it or it doesn't. You know that better than anybody. And if I'm going to have to sit here and have to pick apart your product to figure it out, that's not the best use of my time. So they're turning back to the manufacturers and saying, you need to meet a certain level of data. And it's gone from them wanting that basics of, how do I need to buy it? How do I need to put it in my warehouses? How do I need to get it to my stores? How do I need to put it in packages to ship to customers or whatever, to I need you to give me exactly the things that will entice somebody to buy your product. And how do I need to market your product so that people will buy it? And what are the things that I need? And so we've seen that grow. And with that growth, we're still kind of in the Wild West a little bit. There are some things where people are kind of gelling around standards and around use of various common components, if you will. But there's still, everybody's saying these are the things I need. And so the manufacturers are having to come up with slightly different variations or things like that to meet those needs that are out there. But that's kind of where we're headed, is to have the technology pieces able to be able to be unique if need be common where it needs to be, but to meet those retailers and distributors and front sales guys that are meeting the customer where they need to go for what they need. And so that's what we're trying to provide.
We talk about post-COVID and coming out of post-COVID, and I think our industry's changed obviously dramatically and will continue to if you look at impacts like supply chain, right? How the service and being able to have this uniformity of where people can find products is huge, right? And if you look at supply chain again, maybe you've had a long time partnership with a supplier and maybe that supplier is no longer available to supply a product or a large amount of product. So this gives you the opportunity to really learn or find those products. And I also think one big thing to think about from my days of retail and being in a corporate office and really working merchandising as well as marketing through that, less and less are people in a corporate office. There's that remote work, and there's a less opportunity for people to see and taste and feel and share and get feedback on products as they're looking at what they want to sell to their customers. So the more information that we can provide them through these different channels and through this digital catalog and work like you guys do, the better opportunity to showcase product and really introduce new products based on new trends to the consumer. Through these channels. And that's huge. Consumers want new products. We talk a lot about trends here, obviously. And the one thing we continually hear is, hey, we want to know what's new. We want to know what's first. We want to see those new trends. And this is an opportunity to share those products and really get that out there in a uniform way that retailers can react to.
Absolutely. And the digital catalog that you're referring to, that's a basic visualization of a product, right? Mm-hmm. Looks and feels like a web page, and gives access to a lot of different information. It's in a package where the HTML can be shared, and people can actually link directly to it from their website. It makes it a little bit easier for the recipients to ingest that data or to be able to share that data straight across. But you're able as a manufacturer to build that page the way you want your page to look. You'll have your image carousel, your videos for serving suggestions or how to use the product or instructions for the product, depending on what your product is. You have the ability to put reviews and actually ask customers and folks who are using your products to post reviews about your product. Because, that's one of the key things that's happening right now, that consumers are buying on reviews. That when they look at a product and they see the product's got a 1 out of 5 stars for 5,000 reviews, probably not a product they're going to go after. But if they can see a 4.5 out of 5 stars across 10,000 reviews, probably is something they're going to pay attention to. So you can put all of that into this digital catalog as you have it available, and as it's something that you want to provide as an experience for your product. And now you're able to share that through, and the people on the other end understand your product a lot better, can actually take the hard work you've done to put in the marketing effort and the content and everything else, and carry that forward to your consumer. And you start to have a little bit more of a conversation with that consumer directly.
Absolutely. And Scott, for our listeners, think about this. I know we operate a lot business to business. So help us understand how we work as a business to business. And when you talk about consumer, what you mean by that? You mean the end consumer, or you mean the consumer at retail?
Actually, when I say, in this case, I probably should say consumer or end user. Okay. It can be both. Right, so that digital catalog page is used at every step of the way. So you'll see it used by the retailers, the distributors, all those middlemen to pull the information and to get what they need. But then they can take that link and they can embed it in their own websites and share it with the people that they sell to, be that the distributor selling on to a retailer or the retailer selling on to the general public or that consumer or a restaurant operator or a hospital clinic. They can share all of that stuff all the way down. And what ends up happening is they all get the same information. They all get that same view, that same feel. And as you make changes, they're immediate. I mean, we're talking seconds here. That you make a change or you update something about the product, it's immediately updated and readily available.
Well, and I think that's key for our listeners to hear today, right? As a marketer, we often talk about consistency in messaging and meeting people where they are on those platforms, right? So I think it's important to understand the bigger, I will say the macro picture of how this can really, in my mind, save some time, save some efficiencies, but also give consistent branding and highlights of new products or your existing products out there that you want to get, that our manufacturers or our distributors want to get out to a retail audience so that they can turn around and get it out to their shoppers in store or online.
Absolutely. And, one of the other cool things that can be done with this, it's just coming along. I don't know if your listeners here have heard about the 2D barcode sunrise, which is going to start in 2027. Okay. For the past 40, 50 years, we've used the UPC barcode and the EAN barcodes at point of sale and point of care. And there's going to be a shift that's going to begin. Those don't go away right away. But beginning in 2027, those systems are going to start being built to accept a 2D barcode, such as a QR code, for example. So when you think about the QR code, it's a square with a bunch of little box squares inside of it that make up a barcode, as opposed to a UPC barcode, which is a bunch of lines. And so that allows us to put a lot more information in there. Well, one of the components inside that barcode that you can put is a link to the digital catalog. And so now you can take that visual representation of your product with all the reviews and the images and the carousels and nutrient fact panels and all that sort of stuff that you built, and you can put it into a barcode on that package.
Wow.
What this does now is this gives you the power to not only use that digital catalog when you're selling to your retailers, and they can use it when they're selling to the consumers, but the consumers can interact with you directly from the moment they look at the product until they're ready to throw it away. So if I buy the product today, and maybe it's something that has a long shelf life, right? Maybe it's a canned good. Maybe it's a detergent or something that I'm going to have in my shelf for a couple of months or more, and I want to reorder it. Well, I don't know where. I can scan that barcode. I can get the product information, and now I can find out who might have that product. Or if you have, God forbid, an adverse event, you can tell people, go scan your product and see if your exact product is part of that recall or not. Or you want to try and promote your product, you want to do a coupon on May 1st, you come in, you set that link up. When people scan it on May 1st, they get a coupon. You turn it off at the end of the day. Only the people who scan the product on May 1st get the coupon. You are now jumping around the retailer for that consumer interaction. And those are things that happen after they took the product home, be it shipped to them or be they picked it up in store. Wow. That's the power of this digital catalog combined with some of the other things that are coming in the industry.
Well, it amazes me from my days of early on when I still, obviously when I started in the business in high school and college, I was still didn't even have scanners at the time, right? So I remember introducing those scanners and the capabilities way back around 1990, right? So maybe a little bit before that. But it's amazing to me as I look at the transitions in this industry and how technology has continued to grow from, you name it, from loyalty marketing to where we are now. It's simply amazing. And this that's going to happen in 2027 will be another game changer for our industry.
Yeah, I can agree with that. When I started, I had a price gun, and I had to go around the store and make sure everything had a price on it. And the only scanner we used, and it was something that was just coming out, was an ordering system. Yep. They put an ordering system, and it had a little handheld device, and you could walk around, and it had an LED reader, and you'd slide it across this number, and it would help you place the order.
Well, Scott, I think I have a few years on you because I can remember when it was literally you still put the label on it with the blue ink, right? So. Oh
yes, we did that too. Yeah, but you're right though. I mean, to think about the fact that was just 35, 40 years ago, and we are so far away from that now. I mean, when was the last time you saw people really physically applying a price? Now, yes, there are some people that manufacture and they put a tag on that has the price. Like I bought Christmas ornaments the other day, and one of them had a tag which told you who and all that, had the barcode, but it had a manufacturer price on it. But for the most part, when you go to the grocery store, nothing has a price on it. Nope. You got a shelf edge label which tells you what the price is or what the price per unit is. We trust the system now. It's that ubiquitous and that part of culture, right? That we understand that it's going to be the price that it is. And we go through and everything goes up to the front register and it all works, right? So as we move through this next technology, that's one of the things that people are working on is how do we make sure that stays that way? How do we improve the technology, improve what we can do, but we don't lose the clarity and the vision of what we already have? So that's the nice thing about what we're doing with you guys, right? Mm-hmm, as we work through this partnership, we're very conscious of that together and making sure that what we're doing is going to improve and enhance. If we start to see that things are going to go backwards, we need to stop and say, let's talk about that. And our product team with Randy Mercer as our chief strategy officer and some of the other folks that are engaged are really focused on that. And the digital catalog tool that we have really shows how much focus they have on where we move forward and how we're moving the needle in the industry and where we see things going. So, part of the question you asked a few minutes ago is where do we see things in the next 3, 4, 5 years? I see that as the 2D barcode's not an immediate sunrise. Everybody's not going to be ready in 2027, right? That's going to be a 10, 15-year journey because when that happens, it's going to affect the entire globe, right? Not just the U.S., not just Canada, what have you. So everybody's going to be slowly marching towards that. But as we start marching towards that and as we start marching through that, we already know that we want the digital link, digital catalog included in that. We already know that it's going to have the G10, the what most people would think of as the UPC in there. We're only looking at point of sale right now. We'll start to look at the other levels of packaging, cases, interpacks, displays. We'll start looking at what else can we use that barcode for. Because at some point, we're going to get to a point where there's one barcode on that package. So now, how can we use that digital catalog, that digital representation of the product to further other activities that somebody might want? One of the things we've seen, and you can probably attest to this too, is the consumer of products, their desire for information has just grown enormously.
Like never before, the consumer has been interested in involved in the product life cycle, like never before in the last 4 or 5 years.
Exactly. And so what's going to happen now is once we give them digital catalog and that barcode, what are they going to think of next? What are they going to want to see next? What are they going to want to have access to next? And I think it's going to come down to getting into the really nitpicking details of a product, right? We're already seeing customers that want to know a lot more about ingredients in an item, especially a food item. They want to know, right now they're really focused on what the item is it organic, is it kosher, those types of things. We're seeing more around vegan, vegetarian, those types of things. But I have a feeling in the next 5 or 6 years, people are going to know, where did that ingredient come from? What is the ethical and sustainability impact of that?
I think they're already there. I think that's what's been a driving force for the last 3 or 4 years. And if you look at everything from sustainability to food waste, et cetera, I think that's really where we are. But not only that, they want to be able to look at a company and understand what power they have by purchasing that product as a consumer. Like, where is that company giving back? What are their core values?
Right.
All that. I really think that we're already there, and we've been there for the last couple of years. And I don't know if that's a product of the information age, that's a product of coming out post-pandemic, or just the consumers as they continue to be so knowledgeable in today's world.
Well, I think you're right. They're in wanting to know it, but right now the industry's not there in giving it to them. Right? A lot of the industry is still trying to figure out, how do we give this to them? How do we provide them that level of detail at the point where they want it? That's where digital catalog can come in, right? It's already preset. It's just a matter of adding the information in. And if we need to add a few additional elements to capture that information, it's not a problem. That's easy, right? So I think that's really where I was talking about, was trying to get the technology and get the suppliers at that point where when a consumer comes in with something new, it's not that difficult. Throw it in a digital catalog. Throw it right there. Put it up. Because as these consumers are becoming more and more sophisticated, what's coming next, right? If you give them all the sustainability, if you give them all the eco stuff, if you give them all the ingredient part, what do they want next? But it's all going to be based on data. It's all going to be based on information about that product all the way down to that very nit level. And so now it's a matter of suppliers to see that and figure out how do they build that into their strategy, how they build that into their governance as they move forward.
Yeah, what a great
That should be the fun
perspective
challenge.
and great work, right? And that's one of the reasons that here at IDBA, we seek out partners that can really help us provide value for our members in our industry and are looking ahead and are looking for ways to continue to support members in the industry with this information, what's happening, how can they play a role in it, how can they have access to tools like this. So that's one of the reasons that we've continued to partner with One World Sync, and we're really excited to where we are this year, and we continue to grow that and really are able to talk to members about the value and what we have, and then rely on your expertise because you certainly are the expert in the industry. So with that, Scott, I want to give you an opportunity. I may not have asked you everything that, hey, you want to point out. So is there anything else today you'd like our audience to know about One World Sync, about technology, and where we go in the future?
Sure. So we haven't talked a lot about One World Sync. I'll give a little quick primer on that. One World Sync is one of the largest data aggregators and data syndicators in the market. We have been in the market for a little over 20 years. We grew up in the standard space and have moved out and have expanded on what we've been doing over the past 5 or 6 years. We've moved from just being a data syndicator to being everything about product content. So when you think about your product detail page online, when you think about a digital catalog, we cover all of those services for you. If you want, you can have a full white glove treatment of give us your product and we'll take care of it for you. Or we have a various number of tools where you can do certain things on your own, all the way up to you're a full-scale Fortune 500 company with a master data department, marketing department, and all that, and you want to control your own destiny, put all your own data in, and share it along. At the end of the day, we have the ability for you to share it not only through digital catalog and do that product detail page, but there are also syndication tools where you can actually share the data directly with those people that you're selling your product with or doing business with, ranging from retailers to distributors all the way into the USDA and several other programs. So some of the places where you'll see our stuff pop up comes through all the different websites that you see with the major retailers and distributors. You'll also see it in the branded food database over at the USDA. And then we also have several other products where we're working in new markets. One of the newest things that we've started doing is we started working with school nutrition programs and the K through 12 space, because they're underserved in this ability. If you think about how all the data that we have around food and everything else, but the school systems are still working off of paper. So we're working with a lot of organizations as they help rebuild the bidding process for K through 12. So our organization is poised to help anybody as they're working through this data journey, and we can help provide the information there and the ability to help you carry forward what your goals and your objectives are for your company. So I encourage everybody to look out and see not only us, but just look at the market space. And if you think that there's something that you have a question about on this, we're more than willing to have a conversation and help you understand that and understand where it might benefit you along the way.
Yeah, and you talk about data, and I think that data is so important. We continue to focus on it here, and we focus on it by partnering with organizations like yourself and One World Sync. So, Scott, thank you so much for your time. I know you have a busy schedule. I've really enjoyed our conversations. I continue to learn about technology that's available in our industry, and as we talk about how we add member value. So with that, thanks, Scott, for joining us for this special edition and bonus edition of our What's in Store podcast as we start out 2025.